to threatening Air India. From painting a target on the backs of Indian diplomats to threatening to break India apart. Is this freedom of expression? Prime Minister Narendra Modi exposes West's hypocrisy on terror. Incitement to violence is not free speech. India's strong pushback is our top focus on India First. We get you more on the story, also on India First and India Today exclusive report. We bring you the face of the 1993 Mumbai serial blast, Tiger Memon, a key aide of Dawood Ibrahim Kaskar, a picture that you'd seen 30 years ago and the latest picture accessed by India Today. This is Tiger Memon, the man responsible for the massacre of 257 people in Mumbai in 1993, safe in his palatial bungalow in Clifton, Karachi, Pakistan. That's at 10:30. I'm Gaurav Sawant. As always, let's get started with the headlines on India First. Suspension showdown escalates. 2 more opposition MPs suspended from Lok Sabha. Total number of suspended MPs now 143. Three new bills to replace British-era criminal law passed by Lok Sabha, death penalty for mob lynching, and a set timeline for courts to frame charges and give verdict, part of the provisions. Cracks widen in the opposition alliance. Aam Aadmi Party opposes seat sharing with the Congress in Punjab. Left accuses Mamta Banerjee of helping the BJP. India Today accesses the first image of 1993 Mumbai blast accused Tiger Memon. This is the terrorist's first image seen in 30 years. Sources confirm Tiger Memon is hiding in plain sight in Clifton, Karachi, Pakistan. Mohammad Shami to receive Arjun Award for outstanding performance in cricket. Shami was the lead wicket taker in World Cup 2023. Our top story is Prime Minister Narendra Modi's first response to US allegations of an alleged Indian plot to kill US-based Khalistan terror backer Gurpatwant Singh Pannu. Prime Minister Narendra Modi said India will definitely look into any evidence provided on this alleged link to the terror plot. However, in a strong pushback, he also exposed Western hypocrisy on extremism and intimidation being permitted in the garb of free speech. India is deeply concerned with the activities of extremist groups overseas. Prime Minister Narendra Modi said extremist groups overseas were engaged in intimidation and incitement to violence under the guise of freedom of expression. This was Prime Minister Narendra Modi's first response to the US claims of an Indian national's alleged role in a plot to kill a Khalistani terrorist, Gurpatwant Singh Pannu, in the United States. The Prime Minister said the government will look into any evidence submitted. In an interview to UK-based The Financial Times, Prime Minister Modi also said that the relations between India and the United States could not be derailed by a few incidents. He said India is concerned about extremist groups based overseas. Extremists were exploiting freedom of expression. India would look into the assassination attempt claims. Not appropriate to link a few incidents with diplomatic ties. External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar has repeatedly exposed West's double standards on extremism. The Prime Minister underscored the importance of security and counter-terrorism cooperation. He said it had been a key component of the ties between India and the US. The Prime Minister insisted there is strong bipartisan support for the strengthening of this relationship, which is a clear indicator of a mature and stable partnership. The United States had earlier claimed to have foiled a plot to assassinate Khalistan terror supporter Gurpatwant Singh Pannu with the arrest of Nikhil Gupta, a 52-year-old Indian national suspected of being a gun for hire. Gupta, according to the US, had agreed to pay an assassin $100,000 to kill Pannu in the US. The United States also claimed that Gupta was regularly in touch with an Indian official in New Delhi. Gupta was arrested in the Czech Republic at the request of the United States in connection with his alleged participation in the plot to kill Pannu. Bureau Report, India Today. India was deeply concerned about the activities of certain extremist groups based overseas. These elements, under the guise of freedom of expression, have engaged in intimidation and incited violence. Strong words from Prime Minister Narendra Modi. Is India pushing back against West's double standards? Does the Pannu episode have the potential to adversely impact India-US relations? Let's try and make sense of these developments. Joining me on India Today, Seema Sirohi, author, Friends with Benefits, the India-US story. Also with me, Ambassador Veena Sikri, former top diplomat, and Sushant Sareen, Senior Fellow at the Observer Research Foundation, somebody who keeps a keen eye on this strategic relationship. But Seema Sirohi, I want to begin by asking you, is India pushing back and exposing West's double standards on support to elements like Pannu and Khalistan terror?
Look, what India is doing and what the Prime Minister said, something more important actually, that the US relationship is now mature enough that it can withstand a challenge like this. The US indictment in the New York District Court is a serious problem. I mean, neither side has denied that. But I think what's important is how both sides have sort of dealt with it with a lot of care and calmly. There's no public posturing. There's no, sort of hyped up statements, no chest thumping. This is a problem because, it's one thing that this kind of accusation is leveled against India in a country that is known to harbor terrorists, i.e. Pakistan or some other place. But to have an accusation like this in a friendly country with which India is trying very hard to develop relations, which is a hugely important strategic partner, is another ball game altogether. You see the difference how India handled the problem with the US and with Canada.
Okay.
The two things are very different. Indian attitude, that is.
But you know what, I'm also very surprised, and let me take that to Sushant Sareen. Yes, India does, expose Pakistan every other day for harboring terrorists, and Pakistan does so. But India is also very surprised that the United States or Canada would harbor terrorists and extremists. But the Prime Minister, when he says, if our citizen has done anything good or bad, we are ready to look into it. What do you make of the Prime Minister's response?
Gaurav, first, I'm a little surprised that you are surprised that countries like Britain, US, and Canada have, given refuge to terrorists. In fact, when it came to Northern Ireland, the Americans continued to support the IRA in many ways, including American congressmen and others, despite having very close relations with the Brits. They seem to think that they have a certain amount of exceptionalism. From our perspective, yes, we consider them to be a friendly country, and we believe that unlike terrorist states like Pakistan, countries like the United States should not harbor people who openly issue terror threats and try and incite violence in India. So that is one part of it. The second part of it is what the Prime Minister said. Now, out here, I think in his own way, the Prime Minister has been very polite, very firm. He has indicated that this issue is not one which will, which has the capacity to kind of derail the India-US relationship, because the India-US relationship is far wider and broader than just simply this particular issue.
Okay.
But he's also flagged certain other things as far as India is concerned. The fact that we don't have to agree on anything, on everything, just because we are partners. We will follow our own course where it suits us, just as the Americans would do the same, right? He has indicated that, yes, in case there is a problem, we'll look at it, we'll try and solve it. But that does not mean that it will be solved according to American satisfaction.
Okay.
It will be solved, it will be handled, we will look into it. But just because the Americans have leveled any allegations does not mean that we are going to accept it. And finally, Gaurav, I think it's very important for us to understand, and this is just one area on which I disagree with Seema. A lot is being made that this is an independent judicial process and why this has happened. Now, it's not an independent judicial process when five congressmen of Indian origin come out and issue a statement. Somebody
In
has
fact,
put
I'm
them
coming to that point in just a moment, Sushant. I'm coming to that point.
Yeah, somebody has put them to it. So
Yes.
the American administration at one level is playing it down, at another level is constantly pushing the envelope and trying to finger us.
And
I think
coming
we
to
need
that
be
point,
very
is America
careful.
trying to finger us, as you put it? But let me bring in Ambassador Sikri into this conversation. Ambassador Veena Sikri, read between the lines what the Prime Minister of India is trying to tell the United States of America. What's your appreciation, ma'am?
Well, I think I would really appreciate Prime Minister Modi's statement as being very well-rounded and balanced. He has taken on board this incident and put it in the right perspective. That it's one item of disagreement that has come up between India and the USA. We are prepared to handle it. We will not let it override the relationship. But at the same time, he has flagged the issues of importance. He flagged the issues of importance that, number one, this is a mature and stable partnership between India and the USA, and this should not be allowed to derail that partnership. We will not let it do that. Secondly, security and counterterrorism are issues of top priority for India and the US. We are cooperating on these issues in many cases, and in this case too, we will cooperate and come to an end and a fair conclusion of the matter. And I think that he has very clearly stated that within India, there is a bipartisan support for developing the India-US partnership,
Within the
and we
United
will go
States.
ahead and do that.
Okay.
But we have, to take on board the American concerns, we have instituted a high-level inquiry committee. Now, that in itself, I think there is a tacit agreement from the government of the USA that this high-level inquiry committee can can be established and function in India, and everybody will wait for the outcome of this inquiry committee's findings.
Okay.
So I think that is already a step forward. So I
However,
think
that point that extremism, violent extremism and intimidation is not free speech, that's a very clear point being made by Prime Minister Narendra Modi and Seema Sirohi. India and the US, friends with benefits. But in the Pannu case, is the US, as Sushant Sareen also puts it, is the US trying to put India on the defensive, on the back foot, a signal perhaps to remain perhaps a submissive junior partner? And does the Prime Minister's response indicate that's not to be?
Well, I am not a believer of that school of thought that India can any longer be a junior partner to anybody, So I think India is strong enough, big enough, economically resilient enough that that kind of thinking sort of represents an old attitude. What I would say is this: if this was such an important issue, the few Khalistanis that make so much trouble in US, Canada, and the UK, has India demanded proper action? Has India made it a talking point in every meeting? I'm not so sure. So if it was such a big problem, we should have leveraged then, anything that was necessary to get action from the Americans. Number two, I'd like to address my friend Sushant's point about the Indian congressman. Okay, look at it this way. These are 5 Indian American congressmen. They are politicians. Do you think they're trying to sort of, build a wall so that the spotlight doesn't shine on them? They have to prove, more loyal than the king. Yeah, it's a very delicate situation for them. They asked for a briefing from the intelligence community and gave what I think is a very balanced statement. They said the relationship is hugely important, but this is an issue that must be addressed, which is what I think all non-partisan observers of the relationship would say.
Okay. At the same time, US being a strategic partner of India, Ambassador Sikri, Seema Sirohi asked that point that did India ever raise it with the Americans in the past activities of Gurpatwant Singh Pannu with the Americans? With the Canadians, I know India did, and repeatedly, from foreign ministers to prime minister to even Captain Amrinder Singh when he was chief minister of Punjab, he'd raised the Khalistan issue with Justin Trudeau. But Ambassador Sikri, there are some who argue that the honeymoon phase in this India-US relations is now over. Some even indicate Joe Biden's response to India's Republic Day invitation is also an indicator. Is that how you see it too?
No. Well, let me say that it certainly does seem that there is a lobby within the United States, within some group, maybe some part of the Democratic Party, which would be quite happy to see the India-US relation derailed. And that lobby seems to be very hard at work. I think the question now is how India is able to respond and how the overall relationship and what President Biden has been saying about the primacy of the India-American relationship, how that is fulfilled. And I think that there again, Prime Minister's response to the Financial Times has been very balanced because he's highlighted the importance, but also highlighted how the concerns are there and how we are preparing to deal with those concerns, but not let it override the relationship or affect the relationship in any way. So I think that we have to remember that there are these forces within the United States who would see it, but we have to also work within our own national interests, our own domestic interests, and make sure, because after all, we have to also remember that there is no Khalistani interest in India. I mean, the political parties don't want it, the Sikh community doesn't want it, Punjab government people don't want it. So what is it? Why should some people sitting in America be able to do this? So this point has to be raised repeatedly with the United States.
Or are there elements within the United States establishment or in the Canadian establishment who are enablers of people like Nijjar and Pannu? Sushant Sareen, the Prime Minister, made an important point where he said there is strong bipartisan support for the strengthening of this relationship. A clear indicator, as he put it, of the mature and stable partnership. Security and counter-terrorism cooperation have been key components of our partnership. That remains very strong. At the same time, are both America and Canada ignoring India's vital national security concerns on Khalistan terror? Because our consulates have been attacked, our diplomats have been threatened, and there is an attempt by these Khalistanis to use their clout for crime, drug peddling, human trafficking, all of that in our country.
So, Gaurav, between Canada and the US, I'll make a slight distinction. The US wasn't a problem until recently. This Pannu character used to be out there, but he was a lot of hot air. But in recent, Canada was, of course, a country of some serious concern to us, which is why we were reacting as strongly as we were. But now I think this issue is going to come up increasingly with the United States, especially given the fact that, our missions have been attacked and this guy has actually threatened a terrorist attack. Second point, I would like to ask Seema that if Seema sitting in New York was to issue a statement like Pannu has issued against an American airliner in which she said Mexicans should not travel after such and such date because then their life will be in danger, what would have happened to Seema? Number two, which is what leads me to believe that somebody in the American system is cultivating this Pannu character, using him as some kind of a cat's paw. These intelligence guys always have these games which they play, and they will keep playing. And finally, on the Indian Americans, look, number one, I have very little use for Indian Americans in the academic community. Most of them, try and behave too loyal than the white man himself and spout all kinds of nonsense about India. They have no stake in India. They have nothing to do with India, but they only find relevance in India. All these professors and think tankers, they have nothing to do with India, but they will talk about China, talk about Mexico, talk about Canada. Why do you talk about India? You've already gone away from India, number one. Number two, about these politicians. How is it that there were no Mexican American politicians who took a special briefing? There were no some other politicians who took a special briefing. Why did only these 5 Indian Americans need to weigh in on this matter? We don't need them to tell us what to do.
Okay,
so why are they behaving
multiple volleys fired. Respond to these, and if I may, in your appreciation,
Seema is a very good friend. I have a lot of respect for her writings and everything, but
absolutely,
it's just my way of pushing back.
Absolutely, no, go ahead, and it's no holds barred. I'm not controlling any part of any of this, but does the Pannu episode have the potential to adversely impact India-US relations? Seema, please respond. The floor is yours.
Okay, so in my latest column, I've already said that a certain amount of trust has been eroded, but for different reasons. On the American side, the executive branch feels that, if India can take or allegedly take such actions in a friendly country, what are we talking about? For India, it's all about Western hypocrisy that, how can they harbor a man like this? Definitely a really vile man whom I've blocked, on all the media. Thing is, by giving him so much publicity, are we, indirectly helping him become a bigger, phenomenon than he is or was? Number two, about the Indian American congressman, I agree with Sushant about the academics. I don't want to go there because that would take up too much time. But about the politicians, they were, I think, insulating themselves for future, problems that may arise if this issue is not adequately addressed, because we cannot deny that this is a problem in the relationship. I still would emphasize the way both sides have handled it 5 years ago. I wouldn't have expected that. Okay. And the Canada situation is completely different. Nobody disagrees that their politics are completely beholden to this, sort of extreme bunch of people who call the shots. Even their bureaucracy is completely penetrated. Here, I don't think it's like that. But I would agree with Sushant that intelligence communities everywhere, they have their own games. I'm sorry, I don't have a real insight into that. If the American intelligence was, if he's an agent for them or anything like that, I have no clue.
Okay, but India well within its rights, Ambassador Sikri, to feel very disappointed, not just with Canada, but even with the United States of America for not taking action. Canada against Niger and the US against Pannu. After all, he's threatened bodily harm to passengers on board Indian Air India post the 19th of November. But Ambassador Sikri, I want to draw your attention to a statement that both Sushant Sareen and Seema Sarohi have referred to of 5 Indian American lawmakers who said, and I quote, "We believe the US-India partnership made a meaningful impact on the lives of both our people, but we are concerned that the actions outlined in the indictment could, if not appropriately addressed, cause significant damage to this consequential partnership." Is this a threat to India?
Well, first and foremost, it's a generic statement. I agree with some of the aspects that both Seema and Sushant have touched upon. It's a generic statement by them. They're insulating themselves. They don't want to be caught on the wrong foot later. And possibly the so-called briefing that they had, they were told some of the things that they should be putting out. But let's be very clear, these five Indian American origin congressmen, they've made many statements in the past before. They've never been very gracious and kind to the country of their origin on many occasions in the past. So I would not attach too much importance to this statement. I would like to think more that there is some element in the US that is trying very hard to derail the relationship. Let's not get away from that, and let's not also see that is there any truth in what they're trying to say. I mean, that is the point, this high-level inquiry that is there in India. Seema herself wrote about that so-called note from MEA not passing the smell test. So I think this kind of made-up stuff, let's see where it lands up, where it comes out. I mean, Nikhil Gupta himself, his family has filed an appeal in the Supreme Court of India. So let us see where it goes. But I think the overall effort not to derail the relationship that has come out in Prime Minister Modi's statement, that is the important point to keep in sight. We will not let these individual elements do that. And we continue with our own efforts to A, carry forward the relationship, and B, to make it very clear that we are not going to tolerate these kind of statements, calling for bombing of airlines and calling for saying bombing the parliament and so on. I mean, this is
or
the kind
threatening
of
our diplomats, painting a target on the backs of our diplomats, and actually setting our consulate on fire in San Francisco. Sushant Sareen, frankly, in any civilized conversation, US and Canada should be on the back foot. Their silence on terrorism, their silence on extremists operating from their soil, despite claiming to be a strategic partner, no action has been taken. And frankly, what should have been dealt with privately is aggressively made public. You see this as American intimidation tactics or the West's intimidation tactics?
No, there are a couple of things at play. I think one, as Seema very correctly identified it, it's Western hypocrisy. It's also Western exceptionalism that we can do certain things, you dare not do it. You do what we ask you to do, don't do what we do. That's the ruling motto of the West. So I think one is that factor. The second is, of course, they are trying to turn the screws on us. They are trying to bring certain amount of pressure on us and seeing whether, we'll wilt, whether we'll blink, whether we'll give in, whether, our knees will buckle under. Let's see how that works out. I don't think it's going to play the way they're expecting it to play out. But I think, Gaurav, it is very important for the Indian side to impress upon the Americans that, look, these are not the raving and rantings of a lunatic like Pannu or these other Khalistani scum who live out there, perhaps under CIA, FBI patronage. I don't know whose patronage they live under. The important thing is that these are having real life consequences in India.
Absolutely.
These are having consequences because they are funding, weapons smuggling out here. They are funding drugs out here. They are funding criminal activity. They are funding assassination campaigns in India. It is becoming a big problem. And these are real life consequences. These are people with a track record of having blown up an airline 30 years back.
Yes.
These are real problems.
And I will let that be the last word on this part of the show.
They can play games with this, then I think they have another thought coming because there are certain red lines even India has. The Americans need to understand it. If it's just hot air somebody is blowing, no problem. He can go and say whatever the hell he wants to say.
Okay.
Nobody will give a damn about it. But if it's having real life consequences, then it has to be addressed.
And perhaps India too should get its dossiers together on these terrorists and terror supporters and send them across to the United States of America. Seema Surohi, Ambassador Veena Sikri and Sushant Sareen for joining me here on India Today. Many thanks. A quick break. On the other side, Tiger Memon. India Today has accessed the first image of the 1993 Mumbai blast mastermind living in Karachi, Pakistan. The latest images, his residential address, details coming up.
India, as you know, is a land of diversity where countless stories are born every day. A brand that has celebrated the rich mosaic of our country, India Today, is the brand that has been covering stories from all spheres of life from across the country tirelessly, making sense of the myriad India and the Indians residing in here. The story of India Today and the story of my latest film, Donkey, which is inspired by the phenomenal dreams and struggles of the same Indians and is a story about love and friendship filled with humor and heart.
हमने मजबूरी में अपना घर छोड़ा था, वरना कोई अपना देश, अपना परिवार, अपने दोस्तों को छोड़कर क्यों जाएगा सरहदों पे गोली खाने?
While my film Donkey symbolizes the struggle of many who leave home and their loved ones behind in the hope for a better life, they miss their homeland in this tough bargain. But it's their spirit that helps them carry on. India Today has been capturing the indomitable spirit of being an Indian for over 5 decades now. India Today, making sense to India, making sense of India.
Going to be the trend, it's my way or the highway. If you do not fall in line, we are going to throw you out because we have the majority. We control both the houses, and they want to turn Parliament into just a stamping house, to stamp and authorize the diktats of the PMO. That's what they wanted.
This is a dubious record in the history of parliamentary democracy, to the best of my knowledge and whatever research I've been able to do. There is no example of any parliament in any parliamentary democratic system in the world that has ever suspended so many people at one time. It is a disgrace, it is a blot on our democracy, and honestly, I'm ashamed that those in power in this country would allow this to happen instead of preserving the parliamentary democracy that gives us a good image and reputation around the world.
Big boost to the Hindu side in the Gyanvapi Mandir versus Mosque case. The Allahabad High Court has rejected all petitions from the Muslim side challenging the Hindu side's plea to worship at the Gyanvapi complex. 3 pleas by Muslim side against an order for ASI survey of the Gyanvapi complex were also rejected. The single judge bench of Justice Rohit Ranjan Agarwal also asked the lower court to complete the hearing on the matter in 6 months. The High Court crucially observed that till the court gives its verdict, the disputed complex cannot be called a temple or a mosque. The Muslim side had been banking on the Places of Worship Act, which bars changing nature of a place of worship and puts a status quo starting 1947. The Hindu side maintained that the entire Gyanvapi complex is part of Kashi Vishwanath temple and the mosque was built after razing an ancient temple. The verdict came a day after the ASI submitted its scientific survey report on the mosque complex before the Varanasi District Court in a sealed cover. It will be shared with the petitioners on December 21st and a copy will be sent to the Supreme Court. Bureau Report, India Today.
India Today brings to you an explosive evidence of Dawood Ibrahim's dark shadow over Bollywood's most sensational murder, the assassination of Gulshan Kumar. August 12, 1997, when members of a hit squad fired 16 gunshots, the music baron paid with his life for declining the underworld's extortion demands. Composer Nadeem Saifi was declared co-conspirator. The Bollywood music director is living in exile in the UK since. He denies wrongdoing. But now, India Today has obtained incriminating evidence. The absconder might be secretly protected by Dawood's international terror ring in Dubai and in the United Kingdom. Intercepts accessed by India Today suggest the Don is actively pursuing the case from his ISI safe house in Pakistan. Listen into this shocking conversation from early 2015, a testimony of Dawood's possible nexus with Nadeem Saifi, who's wanted in connection with Gulshan Kumar's murder.
Hello? सर अस्सलाम वालेकुम।
अस्सलाम।
सर लंदन वाला दोस्त खतरे में आ गया है, इधर प्रिपरेशन दे दी है, 2 दिन में उठाएंगे उसको।
किसको?
लंदन वाला दोस्त सर।
कौन सा वाला?
बड़ा उस्ताद सर।
अच्छा।
हाँ, मैंने कहा अपने सुनने की खबर थी, पर इधर क्योंकि हालात खराब होंगे इसलिए प्रिपरेशन दे दी है 2-3 दिन पहले कि भाई अपनी सिक्योरिटी वगैरह सारी टाइट कर लो, ये काम उठाने का हो रहा है।
अच्छा।
The most compelling leads on Gulshan Kumar's murder. Dawood Ibrahim is clearly taking no chances. The Don's trying hard to save his partners in the crime. Stay tuned for more on this biggest underworld news break of 2017. With Arvind Oja, Bureau Report, India Today.
So how does predictive healthcare work? Pre-screening is the key here. Patient is assessed on family history and lifestyle. Various blood scans, tests ascertains the clinical condition. Some may use AI machines to detect abnormalities. Genetic testing also, blood tested for genetic markers associated with the disease. And then machines use algorithms to compare the test results with data set to predict disease's risk. Intervention, doctors suggest lifestyle changes, medicines to reverse the disease. Here are the advantages of artificial intelligence in diagnosis. Early diagnosis, for example. Any prediction of a disease risk prompts increasing in monitoring, leading to early diagnosis. Better treatment outcomes. An early diagnosis in turn leads to improved chances of treatment success. Less reliance on medication. Doctors recommend lifestyle changes instead of medications. Avoiding surgeries. Timely lifestyle changes can prevent severe complications, avoiding the chances of surgeries. What about the challenges related to artificial intelligence? False negatives. A negative result does not guarantee that the person won't get the disease. Limited data set. For AI machines to make accurate predictions, a very large set of data is required to compare against the results. Quality of diagnostics. The analytics depends on blood markers, body scans and genetic markers. If these are not really up to the mark or quality, the prediction will not be accurate.
Welcome back. Tiger Memon, one of the main accused in the 1993 Mumbai serial blast and a key aide of international terror financer Dawood Ibrahim Kaskar, had escaped from India with his family a day ahead of the 93 blast. He first went to Dubai and then fled to Karachi in Pakistan. His only available picture was from the early 1990s when he was in his early 30s. Now India Today has accessed his latest picture. Balding with a long beard, the man charged with the killing of 257 innocent Mumbaikars is currently living in Clifton, Karachi, Pakistan. Arvind Oja reports.
March 12th, 1993, Mumbai. 257 dead, 1,400 injured. 13 blasts ripped through Mumbai on the 12th of March 1993. The two masterminds, Ibrahim Mostar, Abdul Razak Memon, or Tiger Memon, a key member of the D Company, and Dawood Ibrahim.
वो लोग दोनों मिलके उन्होंने ये पूरा प्लान बनाया था, लेकिन ये मुख्य एग्जीक्यूटर था. इसने सारा जो कॉन्स्पिरेसी था उसका अंजाम टाइगर ने दिया था. प्रॉपर्टीज रीडेवलप करने में का उसका बिजनेस है. उसकी पूरी आइडेंटिटी बदल दी गई है, उसको नया नाम दे दिया गया है.
For years, this was the only image of Tiger Memon that the world had ever seen. But today, for the first time, India Today reveals what this terrorist looks like now. India Today has accessed Tiger Memon's latest image. The terrorist responsible for the 1993 Mumbai explosions had fled to Dubai. Pakistan's ISI played a role in relocating him to Pakistan thereafter. Since then, Indian intelligence agencies have been pursuing Tiger Memon, now 63 years old. Pakistan has consistently denied his presence within its borders.
वहाँ डिफेंस हाउसिंग सोसाइटी है कराची में, वहाँ वो रहता है. पहले तो आईएसआई के संरक्षण में रूफी कॉटेज में पूरा परिवार को ठहराया गया था. उसके बाद वो लोग घर बदलते रहे.
India Today has not only obtained his latest picture from highly placed security sources, but also visual evidence of his sprawling villas in a plush neighborhood in Karachi. According to India's National Investigation Agency, Memon has 2 homes in Pakistan's commercial capital. We take you to his first hideout in Karachi, located in the city's Defence Authority housing colony, one of Pakistan's most protected neighborhoods. Armed guards, surveillance cameras, soldiers constantly patrolling the premises. The posh area developed by the Pakistan Army itself. This area is home to high-ranking officers and government officials who share this neighborhood with terrorist Tiger Memon. According to the NIA, Tiger Memon also has another villa in Karachi on Golf Course Road. He maintains an office in a shopping mall. His operations linked to his drug trade in South Africa. According to intelligence sources, Tiger Memon is involved in real estate dealings in Pakistan in collaboration with Dawood Ibrahim and the Pakistani ISI. With Arvind Ojha in Delhi, Bureau Report, India Today.
The Colorado Supreme Court has banned former US President Donald Trump from the state's ballot for his role in the US Capitol Hill attack. We get you more in this report.
Is Donald Trump's presidential rerun dream over forever? Trump stands disqualified from Colorado's 2024 presidential election ballot, as pronounced by the state's Supreme Court. An advocacy group, Citizens for Responsibility and Ethics, had argued Trump should be barred from the ballot for inciting the January 6, 2021 attack on the US Capitol. Slim majority of 4-3 ruled that Trump is disqualified from appearing on the state's ballot under Section 3 of the 14th Amendment of the US Constitution, a post-Civil War era provision which bars anyone engaged in insurrection or rebellion from holding federal office. This becomes first constitutional challenge to Trump's 2024 run, and also the first time a presidential candidate is disqualified under the clause, Section 3 of the 14th Amendment. This is in addition to the list of existing cases against Donald Trump, including the grand jury that indicted him for payments related to Stormy Daniels, an adult film star, to buy her silence on an alleged affair. Then the accusations of mishandling classified material at his Mar-a-Lago residence and obstructing inquiries in Florida. For now, Trump can appeal in the US Supreme Court. His campaign team has already called the disqualification decision undemocratic. The ruling can also impact similar lawsuits against Trump, compounding his indictment woes. Meanwhile, presidential candidates have jumped in Trump's support. Robert F. Kennedy Jr. wrote, "When a court in another country disqualifies an opposition candidate from running, we say that's not a real democracy." Now, it's happening here. Fellow Republican Vivek Ramaswamy has pledged to withdraw from the Colorado GOP primary ballot until Trump is allowed to return.
For now, trouble is only escalating for Donald Trump. And this becomes the big test for the former president's dream to enter the White House again. Bureau Report, India Today.
Lok Sabha on Wednesday passed 3 amended criminal bills in a bid to overhaul the country's criminal justice system by replacing old colonial-era laws. The new laws will replace the IPC 1860, the CRPC or the Code of Criminal Procedure 1973, originally incidentally enacted in 1898, and the Indian Evidence Act of 1872. The 3 new criminal bills will free the people from colonial mindset and will focus on justice delivery, claims the Union Home Minister Amit Shah when the bill was actually passed in the absence of 97 opposition MPs.
जो सदस्य विरोध में ना गए मेरे विचार में निर्णय हाँ वालों के पक्षों प्रस्ताव स्वीकृत और विधेयक यथा संशोधित पारित हुआ.
The Bharatiya Nyaya Sanhita, the Bharatiya Nagrik Suraksha Sanhita, and the Bharatiya Sakshya Bill. The new laws to replace the British-era criminal law is passed by the Lok Sabha by voice vote. With 143 MPs suspended, the opposition benches were mostly empty when the debate on the bill took place on Wednesday. Home Minister Amit Shah claimed the new laws are citizen-centric, unlike the colonial-era code.
मोदी जी ने प्रधानमंत्री बनने के बाद गुलामी की मानसिकता और गुलामी के सारे चिन्ह इस देश में से जल्दी मिट जाए और नए आत्मविश्वास के साथ महान भारत की रचना का रास्ता प्रशस्त हो, इस पर आग्रह रखा है. ब्रिटिश काल की गुलामी के सारे चिन्ह समाप्त कर ये संपूर्ण भारतीय कानून अब बनेगा.
So what will change once the bills become law? Here are the good bits. First information report or FIRs can be filed in any police station but in the same state or union territory where the crime is committed. The police must complete probe within 180 days. Courts will frame charges within 60 days and give verdict in 30. Under trials will be eligible for automatic bail after serving half their sentence. There will be a witness protection scheme for witnesses in sensitive cases. Women victims of crimes like rape can give testimony at home and their identity will be protected. There will be mandatory video recording of police searches. Now the concerns. Police can seek 15-day custody of suspect anytime within 60 to 90 days of arrest, depending on the offence. Currently, the police can get 15-day custody from the date of arrest. A court can proceed with trial if the accused does not appear for 90 days. The accused can also be convicted. Agencies can seize digital devices like phone and laptops during an investigation, which could erode right to privacy. Police get powers to attach property deemed as proceeds of crime. This could lead to arbitrary asset seizures based on suspicion. There are inadequate provisions for default bail. In other key changes, the definition of terrorism is changed to include damage to economic stability of the country and use of criminal force against public functionaries. The government has gone by past Supreme Court rulings and has not made adultery or gay sex a crime.
While these reforms signify a promising step towards a more equitable system, as stated by the government, they also pose significant challenges in striking a delicate balance between citizens' rights and the criminal legal proceedings, which warrants a careful consideration of the proposed changes which are soon expected to come into force. Reporting from New Delhi, this is Nalini Sharma for India Today.
मॉब लिंचिंग घृणित अपराध है और उसको हम नए कानून में फांसी की सजा का प्रावधान कर इंक्लूड कर रहे हैं. मगर अब मैं आपको पूछना चाहता हूं, आपने भी इस देश में 70 साल में 58 साल शासन किया है, आपने मॉब लिंचिंग को भला अब तक क्यों नहीं लाए थे? हम तो जब बदलाव किए तब लाए. मॉब लिंचिंग शब्द का उपयोग हमें गाली बोलने के लिए तो खूब किया, मगर जब सत्ता में आए तब भूल गए. इस प्रकार के व्यवहार को जनता जानती है. राजद्रोह को देशद्रोह में बदलने का काम किया। पहले राजद्रोह की व्याख्या थी, मैं आगे डिटेल में बताऊंगा। राज से मतलब शासन था, भारत नहीं था। किसी भी राज्यकर्ता के खिलाफ कोई भी कुछ बोलता था तो इसके पर अपराध राजद्रोह का कानून लग जाता था। हमने व्यक्ति की जगह देश को रखा है। व्यक्ति की टीका ये लोकतंत्र का सबसे अच्छा लक्षण है।
We will continue to track developments on the story closely. That is all I have for you on India First this evening. Many thanks for watching. News and updates continue on India Today. Stay with us.
Does become Khadge versus Modi fight, what will it look like? Let's take a look one by one on the strengths, weaknesses and importantly the characteristics of both individuals. Prime Minister Modi on one side, remember, 73 years old, only non-Congress Prime Minister with 2 straight terms and looking at a hat-trick now. Mallikarjun Kharge, 81 years of age, first non-Gandhi to helm the Congress in over 20 years. So that's going to be very crucial. He has that leadership quality, has been able to at least lead the party. What happens with regard to when Prime Minister Modi, who stands right now having led the BJP not just at the centre, but victories one after another in the assembly states, for example, as latest as we have seen in Chhattisgarh, Madhya Pradesh and in Rajasthan. For Mallikarjun Kharge also, it is individually also, remember, he's won 10 straight elections. He's won Karnataka Legislative Assembly. He's been the Lok Sabha Member of Parliament for several years and has been now in the Rajya Sabha too. For Prime Minister Modi, he's made clearly BJP a pan-India party. He's trying to make inroads into the southern states. For Mallikarjun Kharge, there had been factionalism, there had been different issues. He's tried to also revive the Congress party in a lot of ways to ensure it can then take on the BJP. For Prime Minister Narendra Modi, he is becoming a popular global leader as well in multiple surveys, his leadership, and not just with regard to the connect to the masses, which is of course humongous, but also with regard to other leaders, for example, like the Italian Prime Minister, US President, who have been sharing individual friendship as well with the Prime Minister. Mallikarjun Kharge, meanwhile, with regard to caste equations, is one of the tallest Dalit leaders, has made that representation, and then to be leading the Congress party is definitely a game changer. Now, for Prime Minister Narendra Modi, remember, he has the electoral benefits right now with regard to the elections he's been winning, but as much with regard to the connect that he has made, saying, I do not believe in caste. The only caste for me are the poor people who need to be uplifted, apart from, for example, women as well. For Mallikarjun Kharge, he's also a popular face in the southern state of Karnataka locally and has now been able to come to the national representation as well for the Congress party.
I have not said either it is Rajya Sabha or it is Lok Sabha, it's a mock parliament was going on. If he has taken on his shoulder, I am really helpless. Does he really behave like this in the Rajya Sabha? That's my question. Now that's my question. No, I have never intended. There will be sin. Either you allow me to speak, otherwise you will. No, then either you allow me to speak or then. Now I will tell. I have never any intention to hurt anyone. Dhankar Saab is also in my profession. He is a senior than me. He is also senior advocate. I am also senior advocate. In our profession, we never hurt anyone. I did not intend to do it.
परिवार बनाने की मांग की थी मैम?
हाँ किया था, और अरविंद जी भी मेरे को सपोर्ट किया था।
मैम आपने खड़गे जी का नाम में ऐसी बातें
हाँ किया है।
और इस पे कुछ और विस्तार से आप बता दें।
नहीं, खड़गे जी को नाम हमने किया है कि हर लोग पूछता है एक फेस तो चाहिए, तुम्हारा फेस कौन है, तो इसी के लिए हम एक प्रपोजल दिया था कि खड़गे जी को होना चाहिए। खड़गे जी अगर फेस होगा तो ठीक है, और हमारा कोई एतराज नहीं है, और हमको सपोर्ट दिया है अरविंद केजरीवाल जी। मैंने और हमारे साथ 9 MP लोकसभा राज्यसभा मिला के 10 मेंबर का डेलीगेशन हम अभी प्राइम मिनिस्टर के साथ मीट करके आ रहा हूँ। हमारा मेमोरेंडम का कॉपी आपको मिल जाएगा बाद में। फ्रॉम पार्टी ऑफिस दे विल डिस्ट्रीब्यूट यू। मैंने जो बात आपने देखा कि हमारा 100 दिन का जो रुपया नहीं मिल रहा है, जिन्होंने काम किया है गरीब लोगों ने, उसका रुपया भी बंद हो पड़ा। एक कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन का मैंडेटरी है, ये रुपया देना चाहिए, आज तक नहीं दे गया है। और 22-23 का जो बजट हुआ था, वो बजट में 100 दिन के लिए काम के लिए हमारा स्टेट को एक पैसा भी नहीं दिया था।
This is how everyone pictures India's most wanted terrorist, Dawood Ibrahim. The only images that exist of a man who has evaded Indian justice for 3 decades. Until 1985, Dawood was one of the most infamous figures in India, but his photos were scarce. Everyone knew of Dawood, but no one knew what he looked like. Then came this famous Dawood moment, captured by India Today photographer Bhavan Singh in Sharjah in 1986. Dawood and his gang members in tow, attending a cricket match between India and Pakistan. Realizing a man surrounded by bodyguards could be Dawood, India Today's Bhavan Singh prepared to take a photo. Just as he was about to click, Dawood's men stopped him. But Dawood signaled to them to allow the photo to be clicked. This image was the result. In 2015, a rare new image of Dawood Ibrahim emerged, providing the world with the first glimpse of the terrorist in over 2 decades. But now, amidst massive buzz over the status of Indian fugitive, you're probably wondering, what does 67-year-old Dawood Ibrahim looks like now? Well, India Today used artificial intelligence-enabled photo software to answer that question. What you're looking at are the results. Using the handful of public domain real-life images, here's how AI has imagined Dawood Ibrahim. The 3 phases of India's most wanted terrorist. How soon before we have a real picture of what he looks like now? With Rahul Gupta, Bureau Report, India Today.
are watching India Today.
Hello, you're watching India Today and I am Ishwarya Paliwal. Let's start the show with the headlines. 2 more opposition MPs have been suspended from the Lok Sabha. The total number of suspended MPs now up to 143. The India bloc MPs are all set to march from Parliament to Vijay Chowk in protest. The Bharatiya Janata Party now demands an apology from TMC MP Kalyan Banerjee and Rahul Gandhi over a video where Kalyan Banerjee can be seen mimicking the Vice President. Rahul Gandhi hits back, says BJP is outraged over the video but will not address the suspension of the MPs. The Lok Sabha passes 3 new laws to replace the colonial era criminal laws in the absence of 97 suspended opposition MPs. New changes like death penalty for mob lynching have now been introduced. India today has accessed the first image of 1993 Mumbai blast accused Tiger Memon. This is the terrorist's first image ever seen in the last 30 years. Sources have confirmed to India today Memon is hiding in Pakistan. Colorado Supreme Court has disqualified former United States President Donald Trump from holding office. Trump has been removed from state's 2024 presidential ballot. $143 and counting. That's the number of opposition MPs that have been suspended from the parliament so far. While the opposition is up in arms claiming that democracy is being strangulated by the Modi government, it is a video of a TMC MP mocking the Rajya Sabha chair that has now triggered a big war. The Bharatiya Janata Party is now demanding that the MP has now all set to give an apology.
The President of India has expressed her dismay, as did the country's Vice President and Prime Minister.
मैं खुद की परवाह नहीं करता, मेरी बेइज्जती कोई करता है मैं सहन करता हूं, खून की घूंट पीता हूं, पर मैं ये बर्दाश्त कभी नहीं करूंगा कि मेरे पद की गरिमा मैं सुरक्षित नहीं रख पाया।
It isn't just Trinamool MP Kalyan Banerjee who's under fire for the mimicry episode, but also Congress leader Rahul Gandhi for recording it on his mobile phone.
संसद में जिन लोगों को आपने भेजा है वो वाद विवाद के बदले जोकर का काम पकड़ लिया, उन्होंने जोकर वाला काम पकड़ लिया, नकल करने का काम पकड़ लिया, और ये कांग्रेस का नेता राहुल गांधी उसकी वीडियो बना रहा है.
The mimicry in the opposition's mock session outside Parliament has taken centre stage, as 143 MPs are suspended for allegedly disrupting proceedings inside with their protests over last week's security breach. The Congress and other opposition parties responded in kind, reissuing old clips of Prime Minister Narendra Modi mimicking Rahul Gandhi's hug-wink episode in the Lok Sabha. At the same time, the opposition alleges that the BJP ecosystem has amplified mimicry as an issue to divert attention from pressing questions at hand, most notably the suspension of the MPs themselves.
वहाँ पे हमारे 150 एमपीज को बाहर फेंक दिया है, ठीक है, उसके बारे में मीडिया में कोई चर्चा नहीं हो रही है, ठीक है, उनको आपने पार्लियामेंट से बाहर उठा के फेंक दिया, उसकी कोई चर्चा नहीं हो रही है, अदानी जी पे कोई चर्चा नहीं हो रही है, राफेल पे फ्रांस ने कहा है कि भैया इन्वेस्टिगेशन नहीं अलाउ हो रहा, उस पे कोई चर्चा नहीं हो रही है.
Meanwhile, West Bengal Chief Minister Mamata Banerjee has insisted her party MP, now suspended, didn't mean to be disrespectful towards the Vice President.
क्यों आप ऐसा बात करते हैं? हम तो रेस्पेक्ट करते हैं सबको ना, एक डिसरेस्पेक्ट का कोई बात नहीं होता है, इसको जस्ट पॉलिटिकली कैजुअली, आपको तो पता भी नहीं चलता अगर राहुल जी वीडियो में तो छवि नहीं तुलता तो.
The BJP MPs have been unforgiving. They stood up in solidarity as the Parliamentary Affairs Minister read out a motion condemning the mimicry. The references to caste backgrounds have evoked sharp reactions from the Congress.
तो मेरे जाति को तो हमेशा इफेक्ट होता है, मुझे तो बोलने नहीं दिया जाता है, मैं जो सवाल उठाता हूँ उसको उत्तर नहीं मिलता.
Mimicry consumes the final stretch of Parliament's winter session, a sitting otherwise marked by an audacious security breach and a record suspension of MPs. Bureau Report, India Today.
They all united to defeat the Bharatiya Janata Party and Prime Minister Narendra Modi. But Team India, even after 4 meetings, is a house that is extremely divided. From the face of who will become the Prime Minister of the country to making sure that they get the seat division right, there are cracks galore in this opposition alliance.
Over 2 dozen opposition parties with the shared goal of removing Narendra Modi
But the India bloc is witnessing massive rumbling with just months to go before the general polls. Multiple differences have cropped up in the opposition grouping, making the Modi Hatao task even more formidable. While West Bengal Chief Minister Mamata Banerjee confirmed India Today's newsbreak that she has endorsed Congress Chief Kharge as the face of the India alliance, her move made Nitish Kumar and Lalu Prasad immediately see red. Both Bihar satraps left in a huff. Even Kharge himself was stunned.
खड़गे जी को नाम हमने किया है कि हर लोग पूछता है एक फेस तो चाहिए, तुम्हारा फेस कौन है? तो इसी के लिए हम एक प्रपोजल दिया था कि खड़गे जी को होना चाहिए. खड़गे जी अगर फेस होगा तो ठीक है, और हमारा कोई एतराज नहीं है, और हमको सपोर्ट दिया है अरविंद केजरीवाल जी.
हमने पहले सभी लोग जीत के आना है. जीत के लिए क्या करना उसके बारे में हम सोचे. कौन प्राइम मिनिस्टर बनना ये बाद में की बात है.
Bihar Chief Minister Nitish Kumar reportedly sparked a North versus South divide after DMK MP T.R. Balu sought a translation of his Hindi speech. A furious Nitish shot back at Tamil Nadu CM Stalin, saying Hindi is